Welcome to the podcast where hairlines fade, but rock never does. It's the Youth Gone Mild podcast, and I am your host, Gen X Joe. And today, I am sitting down with Mike Gemini, drummer of New Jersey's rising glam metal powerhouse, Fire and Ice, a band that is proving the spirit of the 80s, hard rock, is alive, well, and wearing leather. Or as I like to wear, denim, because it is a double dose of denim week for interviews here at the Youth Gone Mild podcast. Now, Fire and Ice, they are armed with soaring hooks, arena-sized choruses, and a relentless work ethic. And they have quickly become one of the most talked about young bands carrying the glam metal torch into the next generation. And it's because of their debut album, High Roller, that has been turning heads across the rock world. For Mike Gemini, this journey is more than just about music. It's the realization of a lifelong dream fueled by the deep passion for bands that inspired him to pick up the sticks in the very first place. And now, Fire and Ice, they are going to be sharing stages this summer with some of their childhood heroes right at the Whiskey A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip. They're going to be playing with Steelheart, Dokken, and Slaughter this summer. Man, I could not be happier for this gang. And before I get into my interview with Mike, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor here at the Youth Gone Mild podcast, Lisa Gandia of Celebrity Events. If you are an artist or a band and you are looking for a booking agent, look no further than Lisa Gandia of Celebrity Events. She'll get you into large arenas or smaller venues and anywhere in between. And you can check her out at CelebrityEventsRock.com. That's CelebrityEventsRock.com. Tell her Gen X Joe sent you. Let's get into it with Mike Gemini of Fire and Ice, because listen, their story is still being written, but one thing is clear. The stages are getting bigger, the opportunities are growing, and the fire is only getting hotter. Let's do this. Here's my interview with Mike Gemini of Fire and Ice. Hey, Mike, thank you for joining me here on the Youth Gone Mild podcast.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, man. So many great bands came from your home state. We got Skid Row, which we're going to talk about. I want to ask you some questions about that. Other bands out of that era, or area, I should say. We got Bon Jovi, even a little South, Cinderella, all those great bands out of the 80s. And now flash forward, 40 years, 35 years, and now we have Fire and Ice coming out of New Jersey. And dude, you guys are sounding great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. And, there's so many good songs on your album, High Roller. Going through all of these and listening to them, Black Widow. Dude, that is my favorite song off the album.
That's one of my favorites, too. That was Steve Shane. He presented that to us like early on in Fire and Ice. And John wanted to have it like as a bluesy Western type song, and John's good for writing like bluesy lyrics, so John really nailed it with that one.
And I know there was another one too I liked. It was Don't You Cry.
That was our first single from High Roller that we released. Mark is big into like AOR ballads, like bands like Valentine from the early 90s. It's his inspiration to write Don't You Cry.
Yeah, and then for a moment, I almost thought it was a cover of Guns N' Roses until I heard it, and I'm like, shit, man, that stands out all by itself. It doesn't even have to be a cover.
When we released Don't You Cry, a lot of people were saying, oh, that, I thought this was a Guns N' Roses song at first, because a lot of people would get it mistaken for Don't Cry, but this is Don't You Cry.
Looking at it quickly, just kind of will play a trick on you if you don't watch it.
When Mark showed us that song, like the riff and the lyrics and everything, I was so excited. It literally gave me goosebumps when we first when he first presented it to us. And once we released it, it had such a positive reaction. It's like so many people like started really listening to it heavily. A lot of people even today with the album out still say, "Hey, Don't You Cry" is probably my favorite song from there.
Now, you guys draw heavily from a lot of influential bands out of the 80s and 90s: Skid Row, Van Halen, Rat, Aerosmith. Were there any specific moments or even albums from the past from those bands that made you say, this is the kind of band I want to be, but yet stand out on our own?
Well, for me, it was definitely "Rocks" and "Toys in the Attic" from Aerosmith, and "Appetite for Destruction" by Guns N' Roses. Those when I first heard those albums, I knew immediately that I wanted to start my own band and be a rock and roll drummer. Especially on Aerosmith's "Rocks," which the other day just turned 50 years old. Um, Joey Kramer, his drumming on "Rocks" is 10 out of 10. It's like so phenomenal on songs like nobody's nobody's fault and sick as a dog. It's like he has just this amazing like drum work that he did on that album that still to this day is probably the greatest in rock history.
Now, going back to High Roller, I kind of want to stay on that for a few moments here, but that album is a real statement record.
We don't want to be just another, like they're just another hair metal band that's imitating the 80s. They're doing what they did back in the day. We're trying to incorporate our own taste, and we want people to enjoy and say, hey, I never heard an album like High Roller. We don't want to be the next Motley Crue. We want to be the first Fire and Ice.
That's an awesome answer. And, speaking of original, Escape into the Night. How did this idea come up? Because for me, it's an original idea. It features, I believe it was what, a North Jersey high speed chase, and all of you guys acted out the roles.
It's funny because "Escape into the Night" was when we did it when we wrote it for the EP "Hypnotized," where we were kind of stuck. Like that was the last song that we had for the EP that we went into record. We were kind of stuck on lyrics. So we had lyrics from other songs that John had wrote, that Mark had wrote, that Shane had wrote, that I had wrote, and we kind of like fused all them together, and added a couple of new ones, and that's how Escape came to be. Now the high speed chase. Like you said, it's all four of us acting out police reports of a high speed chase in North Jersey. It has nothing to do like there's like no story like within the song, if that makes sense. How do I word that? It's not really John would explain it better because that was his idea. When John and I were in the studio together, John was like, this song is missing something, and he was like, it would sound cool if we had police reports, like us acting out, like, hey, dispatcher, we have a what Mark said, 1016 on I-95. We really never, seen any band do that before, to my knowledge. And I really thought that was cool, a cool idea that he had for that.
And I didn't realize it at first that it was you guys. I think what you were trying to say was, and I hate to use the word filler because it just gives it its own attitude. I think that might be what you were trying to say.
Yes, exactly. It was something to add, like a little fun, like a little cool little skit idea into the song. When Shane was doing his, Shane had to do like the most takes of his because like we had a script for the police reports, and Shane, he's not from Jersey, he's from New York. So like I-95, he's saying it like, oh, Interstate 95. He was like mumbling his words, like he didn't he was like getting caught, and we were like, Shane, it's not this, it's you got to say it this way. And it was just hilarious, but his part, he nailed it.
Those damn New Yorkers, man. And still sticking on the creative side of things, you came up with the concept for Welcome to the Show as the live opener for the band.
I remember I was on vacation. I was in Florida. I was, I wanted to come up with my own riff because I never really did that. I never had, never really came up with lyrics. Was never really a songwriter, so I was like, I want to come up with my own little thing, and I kept replaying this riff in my head, just like dan and I presented that to John, and John, tweaked with it a little bit. It came out like down 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 down. So like him and I were like working on what the original idea I had. Um, I said we needed a show opener because um before we had Welcome to the Show, we would either open with Escape or we would open with a cover song like Shout at the Devil, or what was another one we opened with? Detroit Rock City by Kiss. So I said, John, we need a song that like really opens the show, and Make It from Aerosmith came to my head because they used to open their shows back in the early 70s with Make It, and the first lyric was, "Good evening, people, welcome to the show, got something here I want you all to know." So I said, welcome to the show. I was like, why don't we name the song Welcome to the Show? That's like welcoming the audience to Fire and Ice, to our set, like new people coming in, hey, welcome to our show. So John and Mark started tinkering with lyrics. I helped out a little bit. I came up with the chorus for that, and that's how Welcome to the Show was born.
There seems like well, I don't want to say it seems like you guys do have a lot of creative talent in the band. And I know we talked here briefly about John and you mentioned Shane. And Shane's no longer with the band, and losing a co-founder like mid-stride when you guys are starting out and starting to rise, it's never easy. How are you guys navigating now? And I know you got Sparrow who recently joined.
Me and Shane, he's like my best friend. He's like someone I consider a brother. We were in bands together. Um, wow, probably like 5 years now. Like we were in a band called Conquer at Will. Uh, we were in that band for like 2 or 3 years, and then we formed Fire and Ice. And Shane was like my right hand man. I was his right hand man. And when he came up to me one day and said, "Hey, listen, I want to go, focus on other things in my life. I want to take the next step in my life. I want to do my own thing." It broke my heart, but I respect Shane for being honest and wanting to go out and do other things. Um, and I remember he said, I don't want you to, just because I'm leaving, because Shane was the founder of the band. When Shane was, telling me, hey, I'm gonna step away at the end of the year, once, we, get the album done, and, we finish out the year because we had shows already booked. Shane's like, I don't want you guys to quit. I want you guys to continue because you guys, this is gonna be a successful band, and I want you guys to be successful, even though I'm not there. He's like, I'm going to be there in spirit. I want you guys to continue this. So Shane was like, well, we have um, we have Sparrow, because Sparrow at the time was John's guitar tech and roadie, and Sparrow would be at every show, almost every rehearsal of ours. So Sparrow would be, learning for fun, just in case we needed him for a filler if Shane, got sick or if Shane couldn't do a show. Um, so Shane was like, why don't you guys rehearse Sparrow and audition him? And when we told Sparrow, hey, this is what's happening, we want you to audition, and we'll see how you do. First rehearsal we had, Sparrow just knocked it out of the park. Like, he knew every song note for note. He incorporated his own taste into it, which is phenomenal, because he had said, listen, I don't want to play everything exactly how Shane did. I don't want to be another Shane. I want to be me, which is honestly that's the best. And Sparrow knocked it out of the park. We couldn't have found a better guitarist to fill in well, to replace Shane. And I don't want to say replace, but to take over Shane's spot.
No, I completely get what you're saying, and that's not a knock on anybody, man. You guys are evolving, and that comes with being in a band.
Yeah, and Shane was my little punching bag, so it's like me and him would break each other's chops all the time. So it's kind of like it still feels a little weird not to have him there breaking our chops. But I did actually go out to Los Angeles a couple weeks ago because Shane now lives in Los Angeles, and as soon and I haven't seen Shane since the last Fire and Ice show we did with him, which was our album release party in December. So it's like 4 months, a little over 4 months. And as soon as I saw him, we hugged. He said, "How's the band doing?" I said, "Well, ever since you left, we got these big opportunities coming towards us. So I guess you were the one who was holding us back." And it was like all out of good fun.
Nice.
So even though he's not with us anymore in the band, the ball breaking's still there all the time.
It would have to be, you know.
Yeah.
So speaking of Cali, you got 3 shows at the Whiskey A Go Go. You're opening for Dawkins, Steelheart, and Slaughter, man. 3 legend bands. What does that mean to share stages with those bands?
Oh, it's an opportunity that we're so grateful for. I mean, it's not every day that a band like us, who's still up and coming, that gets these big opportunities. It's an amazing feeling because it's like we grew up listening to these guys on CDs and records and streaming, and now it's like, hey, we're gonna be direct support for these guys. These guys are gonna, someone we grew up listening to. We're gonna be right sharing a stage with them. So it's like it's an amazing, amazing experience. And I also have a cool announcement that we just got confirmed. I think we're gonna be posting about it probably within the next week. But I'm allowed to say it now. While we're out in Cali for the Steelheart show and the Dawkins show, we also are gonna be playing the Viper Room for Tommy London's $5 shows.
Oh,
Tommy London,
wow.
Tommy London asked us if we wanted to play.
That's dude, props to you guys for that. And you kind of led me into my next question because I heard Tommy London, I forget what day it was just recently, he was talking about your lead singer, John. And John had tried out to be the next lead singer of Skid Row. Now, there's no announcement yet if he made it or who made the final cuts, but man, what an amazing voice he has.
John is probably the best singer I've ever worked with. He has that range that is very hard to duplicate. Like he has that high pitch range. He can go from high to low to mid. And it's just an amazing experience. Well, an amazing voice. I remember my first ever Fire and Ice rehearsal when I first joined the band. We played "Shout at the Devil," and I remember this is my first time meeting John. My first show, first time, well, my first rehearsal, my first time meeting John. We played "Shout at the Devil," and I remember as soon as he started singing, it was like I was playing with fucking Vince Neil. He was so spot on to Vince Neil. It's like you can close your eyes and you would think you're on stage with Motley Crue. John, he just knocked. Like it's like it made me speechless, like how I am now. It's hard to explain. It was just so amazing how much of a talent he has in his voice.
And I can concur that because I watched a video of him trying out for Skid Row, and man, 18 in Life nailed it. He nailed Monkey Business. I mean, I don't see how he couldn't get it, but then you look at that and you're like, man, what's going to happen with Fire and Ice? Now, I'm not wishing that on you, but man, that would be huge for him.
When Skid Row first announced that they were auditioning new singers and opening, the auditions to everyone, John came up to us and said, how would you guys feel if I, for shits and giggles, put an audition in?" And we all looked at each other. We were like, "John, we would be insulted if you didn't because you have an amazing voice. We want you to do that. But he was like, "Well, what would that mean with the band?" And we were like, "John, we can always be Fire and Ice. There's a lot of bands out there who, members have side projects and they have this, if you have a chance to play with Skid Row, you would take it. I'd be insulted if you didn't. That's something I would take right off the bat." And with his voice, he's meant for that band. And you know, if it's not Sebastian Bach, John is meant for that band. John has the voice and the talent, and I really hope he gets the gig.
There were so many that tried their hands at it, and some have the look, some have the swag, but not the voice. And John, to me, he had all three. And to cover Skid Row, I was like, holy shit.
No, John's a very humble person. John would give you the clothes off his back, the shirt off his back if he could. He's such an amazing, warm-hearted person, and you don't really see that in rock stars. Most of them, there's a lot out there that are sweethearts, and there's some out there who really aren't nice people. John is a 100% sweetheart. Nobody deserves it more than him, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to wish him luck on that.
Absolutely.
I know there's a lot going on with the band. You got a new guitarist. John's trying out for Skid Row, and you guys got these 3 huge shows coming up at the Whiskey and the Viper Room, and who knows what else is on the horizon for you.
This year, we want to get the Cali shows out of the way. We want to, conquer California, build a fan base out there, especially with 3 shows. It's, we're hoping to build, a little fan base out there. Next year, we've been talking about possibly going out to London to play a couple of shows because we want to go out of the country and start making some noise in the UK and Europe. Don't know. I don't know if that's gonna be next year. I hope so. But we want to really we want to just start building our fan bases all over the world, and we want to play bigger venues, open for big superstars, and even headline our own shows, and in big arenas or big theaters or whatever. That's the goal as of right now.
And it sounds like you guys are, on your way to putting that to fruition. And all right, man. Well, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you being a guest on the Youth Gone Mild podcast, Mike. I'm wishing you guys nothing but the best in the future with Fire and Ice, and fingers crossed with John.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
All right. My amps, they gotta cool down because, man, it was fire with Mike Gemini of Fire and Ice for this interview. From the release of High Roller to sharing stages this summer with legends like Dokken, Steelheart, and Slaughter, Mike Gemini and his bandmates are proving that hard work, passion, and a little bit of rock and roll stubbornness can still move mountains. A huge thank you to Mike Gemini of Fire and Ice for giving us an inside look at the journey, the music, and the dreams that are quickly becoming reality for Fire and Ice, and I'm sure a lot of other young bands out there. And Mike, while you boys in Fire and Ice are lighting up the Sunset Strip, some of us like me, we're still trying to remember where we left our car keys, okay? It's tough getting old sometimes. Enjoy this while you can. And also a quick thank you to our sponsor, Lisa Gandia of Celebrity Events. As always, everyone, rock loud, live proud. This is the Youth Gone Mild podcast, where hairlines fade, but rock never does. I'm Gen X Joe. Peace out. Props everyone for listening.